We have been talking over together many psychological problems, complex human relationship in which there is such conflict, pain, anxiety. We talked about also fear, not only in our daily life, but also the fear of tomorrow, which may be death. We also talked about the pursuit of pleasure and compassion, which is so rare a thing in this world, and the ending of sorrow. I think we ought to also talk over together this morning, and the weather is appropriate, about death. It is a very complex problem in which many things are involved. Unless one goes into it rather deeply, very wisely, with great insight into it, if you are merely seeking superficial comfort, a belief that will be most satisfactory, then I'm afraid those who are expecting such things will be disappointed. But if you would kindly listen with some affection, care, and inquire seriously, then we can talk over, have a dialogue about this very complex and perhaps the most important thing in life apart from living, which is death. To understand it, not verbally, not intellectually, without any emotion and sentimentality, because sentimentality, emotion, belief doesn't solve any of our problems. We have to approach it most objectively, rationally, without any fear, and therefore with sanity. And so perhaps if we can talk over together this question, the meaning of death, then perhaps some of us can penetrate into that which is so mysterious, frightening, and a thing that brings about such great sorrow in human life. First of all, there are several things which we must understand before we go into the question of death. First, the having an insight or having a deep understanding of the world and ourselves the society and our souls, the community and each one of us. The community, the society, the world about us is not different from us. We have made this world what it is, with our fears, with our ambitions and greed and violence and destructive demands. We have built this society, this culture, both religious and non-religious. This is our way of living, our daily living that has produced this society, this culture. And so, we are the world, and the world is us. That must be clearly understood from the beginning, if we are to inquire very deeply into the question of death. That we, you as a human being, are not different from the human being, from the humanity of the world. We have gone into this question, and if we may repeat it again, that wherever you go in the world, you find human beings, apart from their environment, apart whether they are rich or poor, whether they believe or not believe, all throughout the world, human beings suffer, go through great anxiety psychologically, always in conflict with their relationship, in their relationship. There are fears of various kinds. So human beings right throughout the world have a common factor apart from their culture, their superficial behavior. So we are the world and the world is us. The individual or personal tendency, character, may depend on heredity, environment, and culture. But when you strip the surface, move all that, below, deep down in human beings, there is this struggle, pain, anxiety, a great sense of frustration, misery, confusion. So there is a common factor in every human being. So basically, fundamentally, we are the world and the world is us. You know, if you really grasp that, feel that, not merely intellectually argue about it, but deeply when you feel it, our whole outlook changes completely. So that is the first thing one must grasp fundamentally, that you are not different from another human being. We are you are the essence of all humanity. If you know how to read yourself, then you read humanity. You understand? If I know how to relook at myself, observe myself, then I'm observing the total human being, which is you, me, and another. However far away they are, or however close they be. When that is clear, Then next point is we must consider time. This is very important because we are slaves to time, both chronologically as well as psychologically. There is chronologically tomorrow and many years ahead chronologically. And psychologically, is there time at all? We are questioning it. We are inquiring into it. We are having a dialogue together. So please share in this. Don't let the speaker show you and then agree with it or disagree with it. We are sharing it together. Time is also another great problem in life. Time chronologically exists. That's obvious. There is no question of arguing about it. We are asking, is there psychological time at all? And what is, if there is psychological time as we have it now, what is that time? You understand? Psychologically, we have time, that is tomorrow, day after tomorrow, a year hence. I will be something, which is the movement of time, from this to that. Right? We are inquiring what that time is. When we say, I will be that, psychologically, or I won't be that, I shall reach a state of perfection, a state of bliss, all the rest of it, all that implies from this to that. To move from this to that demands time, both biologically, physically, as well as psychologically. That's clear. I hope it is clear. So what is this time to which we are so attached? That is, tomorrow is very important for us, psychologically, because I do not know how to transform what is, and therefore give me time to understand it and go beyond it. You understand this? I am angry. As a human being, one is angry. And to get over that anger, time is necessary. That is, give me tomorrow or a week, and by then I'll be able to be free of anger. So we think time is necessary to transform what is into what should be. Right? So we are inquiring, what is that time? The movement from this to that. Is that, please, are we meeting each other? At least some of us do, please. Don't encourage me. I don't want your encouragement. But we must understand each other. So what is that time that human beings demand in bringing about a change from that which is, from that which is to that which should be. What is that time? Is it a movement of ignorance? Please go slowly, we are inquiring. Ignorance. Is it the lack of capacity to meet what is entirely, and not having that capacity, that energy? We need time to capture that energy. You following this? Is time the product of thought, apart from chronological time? So don't mix the two together. We are talking entirely about chronological time, psychological time, forgive me. Because chronological time is very easy to understand. If I want to catch a bus, I must be there. We are talking about psychological time. Is time from what is to what should be the process of thought? Is time thought? Is time measure? You understand? Now go slowly into this, very carefully. Time as measure has become very important technologically. To go from here to the moon, to Mars, you need time. And to bring about the technological knowledge and use the technological knowledge skillfully to put together this thing that can go to the Mars needs time. Technologically, you need time. Thought has put together technology. And thought is time, right? Thought is the movement of time. Thought is measurement, right? Are we meeting each other? Please don't agree with me, just look at it. Not only verbally, but actually. Human beings have ideals. I don't know why, but they have ideals. Ideals which have been projected by thought. Noble ideals, or whatever the ideals be. Why do human beings invent ideals? What is the cause of it? Is it because they do not understand or go beyond their own anxiety, their own greed, sorrow, and therefore they project the opposite of what is as the ideal and try to live according to that ideal? Therefore, to live according to that ideal, you need time. Are we following this? So, being incapable of dealing with what is, we say we must have time and to achieve and to change that which is. That's simple. I've explained that. So time is a movement of thought as measure. Right? The Greeks were responsible for this. I'm not a Greek scholar. I don't read books and all the rest of it. Psychological books or philosophical books. I read other books. They bore me, in fact. None of the sacred books or any other books, so-called religious books. I have a horror of all this stuff. So, the Greeks said, in their thinking, measurement is absolutely necessary. Thought is measure. And the whole Western world is based on that. The whole technological world is based on measurement. That's simple. And measurement means time. Time implies thought. Right? To move from here to there, I need time. So, why does a human being invent or see the necessity of that which should be? You follow my question? Because he can't deal with this, with what is. If you knew how to deal with what is, the future wouldn't exist. You kept him. So, man has, rather, thought has invented time as a movement to achieve that which should be, the ideal. Repeat. So, we are saying, is there such time, psychological time? If a human being knows what to do with what is, the tomorrow doesn't exist. You follow? So, measurement implies comparison. Comparison between this and that. Comparing that with this. And that's much more hopeful, much more pleasurable, much more inviting than this. So time has become an extraordinarily important thing to us. And the ending of time, the putting stop to time is death for most of us. I will. This is rather important to understand. Because we are talking over together a very complex problem which is called death. And to really go into it very, very deeply, one has to understand not only the world is me and you are the world and the world is you, but also you have to understand time. Death means the ending of time, as is generally understood. Right? That is, you have lived a life for 50 or 30 or 90 or 100, whatever it is. You have lived a life of struggle, conflict, misery, confusion, occasional joy, what human life is. All those 50 years, or 60 or 30, is a movement of time, right? In which there are all these complexities have taken place. For most of us, the ending of that complex life is death, right? Which is the ending of time. Are we? So, to us, time has become extraordinarily significant. To learn a language, one needs time. To learn any skill, one needs time. But we think also psychologically to change what is needs time. It is the same movement as learning a language. We have transferred it to changing ourselves into something. And the ending of time, or time must have a stop, means death. Right? We're coming back to it a little later. And also, we must understand when something ends, there must be new beginning. Right? Because if there is a continuity, there is no newness, freshness, no radical change. So, ending is a new beginning. The ending is a new creation. The ending of a tradition is a freedom to be to something else. So, we human beings are frightened to end. The ending of what we know, what we have achieved, what our personal relationships, our knowledge, all the things that we have accumulated. If that continues, it's a mechanical movement, right? The ending of that is a new movement. You see this? Look, I am a human being that is attached to another, dependent on another. When there is attachment, is that love? In that attachment, there is pain, there is suffering, there is fear, there is jealousy, there is sense of losing, and therefore feeling empty, loneliness. Therefore, the greater the attachment becomes. So when there is an ending to attachment, there's something totally new. We are meeting each other. So, we're going to find out if there is not an ending only, but is there no beginning and no ending? You understand? This little bit. Because what is immortality? The ancient Egyptians sought immortality in stone. They said life is eternal. That is, life which I live every day will continue forever and ever and ever. Right? You see it in their tombs and all the rest of it. And they try to cheat death that way. They said life is eternal, which is my life, with all my goods, with all my property, with all my power, with all the slaves that I have, the ancient Egyptians. They said that is continuous. So they sought immortality through the assertion that life continues as is. Which is, they thought there is no beginning and no ending. We must find out if there is an ending. You understand? Ending to attachment, this and that. And when there is an ending, is there no beginning and no ending? You understand? This is something new which I am discovering myself now. You understand? I'm investigating together. So we have to find that out. Because we have sought immortality as the perpetuation of our own self. Myself, my name, my form, my character, my desires, etc., etc. We want that made immortal. That's beyond death. And Joe, this is very, very difficult to explain all this to you verbally. We're going to it. And so we are frightened of an ending which is called death. So man says, no, you won't die, but you will become. But life after life, if you live properly, you will become more and more and more perfect, till you reach the highest principle of, the Hindus call it the Brahman. Till then, you must go through various lives, called reincarnation, other forms of continuity. So man has always sought immortality, something which death can never touch. That is, he's always frightened of an ending of himself. So one has to ask, what is it that man hopes to continues? You follow? The me, the ego, the person, to which he clings, and is so frightened to lose that. So we are asking, what is that? The me, the I, the ego, all that. What is that? Has it any reality? Or is it put together by various social, environmental, ideological, verbal structure? You understand? When you say me, what is that me? I. It's a name, it's a form, it is various characteristics, memories, experiences, knowledge, right? The me is a colossal image put together by thought, right? When thought, which is a material process, comes to an end, the me, what happens to that? You're following all this? I wonder. You understand? We said thought is a material process. We said thought is a material process, which we have been saying for many years. And the scientists are now saying the same thing. Not that I want their encouragement. I'm just stating it. Material process. And thought has put together the me. When thought, which is the material process, comes to an end with death, the me, is there a me? You understand? So what is the, please listen, what is the origin of thought? You understand, sir? The beginning of thought. Is it not the root of it? Is it not man living with his senses, knowing the thing, and all the senses are no, I must be careful with you. You're not meeting me. We are asking, what is the origin of thinking, thought? Life being uncertain, in flux, in movement, changing, the origin of thought must have its beginning in reaction. Reaction to environment, to family, and so on. Reaction. Thought is reaction, because it is the reaction which is memory. And out of, when there is a memory, there is reaction to that memory, which is thinking. I've got it. I'll stick to that. Not stick to it, that is the truth. That is, thought is reaction. Understood, sir? That is, knowledge as experience, which is stored in memory is stored in the brain, and the reaction to that memory is thought. Very simple. I ask you, what's your name? You reply instantly, because you are familiar with it. I ask you a little more complex question, it'll take time. And I ask you a question which you cannot possibly answer, you say, I don't know. So it is a process of reaction. So thought, which is a reaction and therefore fragmentary, has created the me, which is a total reaction. This is, please, do see this, very important, because we're going to find out if death is an ending of thought, which is a material process, and therefore the ending of me, is there something more? You understand? So we have talked, we have gone into the question of world and you are the world and the world is you, time, and the desire for continuity and the fear of ending, and the ending is the me, which is put together by thought, and the origin of thought is reaction. So when life, as we know it, that is our daily life of confusion, misery, attachments, pain, anxiety, that's all we know, with pleasure, occasional joy, sexual, all the rest of it we don't have to repeat over and over again. All that comes to an end. Is there a totally different dimension in which there is no beginning and no ending? All that we know is a beginning and an ending, and the fear of ending, right? Are we meeting each other? Fear of ending, which is death. So, we're asking, can the life that one lives end can all the attachments, beliefs, experiences, knowledge end now? That means dying now. You understand the question? I wonder if you do. Look, sir, our life, our daily life, which has been a continuous stream from the very beginning of humanity till now, a river, and then a rushing river of sorrow, misery, confusion, quarrels, violence, bestiality, wars, utter selfishness, lack of compassion, all that is a vast stream flowing, of which we are. Either that can end or it will continue forever. You understand? I wonder if you understand this. Either there is an ending to that stream, that means the mind which has lived in that stream, which is of that stream, that consciousness completely empty itself of all that, and therefore dying to all that, ending to all that. And therefore, if there is an ending to all that, there is a totally different beginning in which there is no end or beginning. I wonder if you have you got it, sir? Have some of you got this? I'll go into it again, because death Christians have made death into one thing. The Hindus, the Buddhists have made into another thing. And human beings, whatever their beliefs, whatever their beliefs in reincarnation, whatever it is, it doesn't affect their life. They are frightened of an ending. The ending of everything they have known. Death means losing all that. Your family, your houses, your insurances, your attachments, whether they be to furniture, to people, to houses, to beliefs, to ideals, to gods. Losing everything that you have known, which is the ending, obviously. We cannot face that. Because thought is a material process. And thought has put together that thing which is me. The me is the known. I may not know all the content of me, but it is the known when investigated and discovered, self-knowledge. All that is a continuous movement of time as thought and measure. That is what we live with, and that is what we are attached to. And when that ends, there is fear of death. You've understood? So we rather live with the known, that is our misery, our confusion, our struggles, our pettiness and all the rest of the ugliness. We rather cling to that than say, look, end it. That means putting an end to time. That is, there is no tomorrow. You understand? So, the living is the ending of what is known as life, which is our pain and all the rest of it. And to that we cling desperately. And being afraid, we seek shelter. We seek comfort. We seek some palliative. And we then have innumerable beliefs that I will continue and I will meet my brother, my sister. You follow? So, as long as a human being lives in that river of sorrow and not end it, humanity will go on endlessly in that stream. But when there is an ending to that, there is a totally different dimension in which there is no beginning and no ending. And that is absolutely timeless. This you have to come upon by living it, by not talking about it. It has no meaning. But when you attach to something, end it today, not tomorrow. And one can. Because there's pleasure in attachment, in possession. And to look at that pleasure and see what all the implications of that pleasure bring about, which is fear of losing, fear of not having that same thing tomorrow, jealousy, anxiety, hatred, all that comes out of that attachment. seeing all that as a whole and to end it instantly is dying to all that now. And therefore there is a totally different dimension in which there is neither an ending nor a beginning, which is eternity. You understand what I'm talking about? No, please, you have got to live this thing. You understand? In your daily life, which means you are greedy. When a human being is conditioned to be greed, to have greed, conditioned by society, by education, by endless years of tradition. That's part of his tradition, that he must be greedy. And not being able to meet that, how to dissolve that greed, he invents a world of non-greed. Therefore he says, give me time to achieve that. But if he knows how to observe greed, then there is only that feeling. There is not the other non-greed. To observe it means one has to find out if the word greed brings the feeling or the feeling exists apart from the word. This is really important to find out. Do I exist apart from the word, the name, the form, this, that, and the other? So, in the same way, is greed encouraged by the word, or is that feeling, sensation independent of the word? If it is an independent of the word, it's just a sensation. And you must have full sensations. Therefore, you're completely out of that category of belonging to the world of greed. You understand this? So, if there is an ending of your pleasure of tomorrow, then you will discover for yourself that death means, in everyday life, a beginning in which there is no ending and beginning. Man has sought this everlastingly. I don't know if you've gone into it. I do not know if you have gone into yourself very deeply. Because you are the history of mankind. You are the essence of mankind. And if you know how to read that book, you don't have to read any other book in the world. Apart from technological books or something or other. There is this vast, unread book of yourself. And to learn and to read it, you must have the capacity to observe it, to look into it. You can only look into it, not page after page, page after page. Please listen to this. But to read the whole book in an instant. And you can do that if there is no observer or the reader reading a book. You've got it. That is, the book is yourself. And the reader is that which he is reading. But if the reader says, I'm different from that which I'm reading, then he is translating what he is reading according to his prejudice, his knowledge, his previous history. And therefore, between the reader and that which is, there is always distortion, conflict. So if there is the art, which is to put everything in its right place, therefore when you read that book of yourself, there is only the observation, not retention, not acquiring knowledge, and with that knowledge read the book. You understand? There is only observation of that book, and it will tell you everything. Literally, it will cover the whole psychological world. So, the ending of life, which is our daily life, of which you are so frightened, because we want something permanent. You understand? And we think the me is permanent. Right? The me identified with the house. The house is permanent, semi-permanent. So, through what it thinks is permanent, it has made itself permanent. You understand? So, that has become our greatest illusion, that I am permanent. When you look at that I, it is put together by thought. And thought is a material process. Until you see that deeply, you'll always be frightened of death. But if you see that the me is totally impermanent, because thought is impermanent, and that which thought puts together, is impermanent, then there is no fear of ending. Because it is thought that says, I will continue. But thought itself knows that it is also an end. So the ending is not only a new beginning, but it is that movement which is not of time, in which there is no beginning and no ending. But the question arises, how is it that there are manifestations from that stream? You understand? Are you interested in all this? You understand my question? That stream, which is our million years of human sorrow and anxiety, fear and despair, hope and all the rest of it, that stream is always manifesting itself, isn't it? Which is you. No? You understand what I'm saying? Having manifested itself as you, then you are born in a family, you have a brother, you have a wife, the brother, the son, the wife dies, and you are left alone. You are left lonely. That is, you have separated yourself from the stream, thinking you are different from the stream, and therefore feel completely isolated when death takes place. Are you understanding all this? Haven't you? I'm sure, unfortunately, with each human being, there have been deaths. The loss of someone whom you think you love. The love is that attachment, that image, that pleasure, that is that. And when you lose that person in death, the organic death, oh, these trains. You are left alone. You are not only crying for that one, for that person who is lost, but also you are crying for yourself. Self-pity, loneliness, isolation. Left alone to do all the things which the other one helped you to do. And you are left. And one shed tears, or one goes to seances, or one believes in meeting them in heaven, or meeting them in next life, the reincarnation, and so on. So all that is avoiding the observation of this sense of loneliness. You understand? This sense of complete isolation. The more you move away from that isolation, that is, avoid it, run away, escape, the stronger that thing grows. But when there is total observation of that loneliness, then you will see that loneliness transforms itself completely. So there is this, not only the losing of someone, but also the incapacity to beat what actually one is. And so one goes through depressions, sorrows, misery, moods, bitterness. You follow all that, which is part of the human stream. You're caught again in it. You understand what I'm saying? So when you see an attachment in yourself, end it immediately. That is to die instantly to that. You understand? It's easy to die to something that's painful, but it's extremely unpleasant to die something that you like, that you are attached to. But when you see this thing, how extraordinarily important it is that time must have a stop, that death has an extraordinary meaning. It is not but it has a most significant meaning, which means the ending every day of everything that human beings have put together. Then you will see for yourself. You won't see for yourself, then there is a totally different thing altogether. Quelle heure est-il?
20 to 12.
I think that's enough, isn't it?